Hey everyone, DFA here, welcome back to the channel, and today we're taking a look at the German CV line. Grinded it a couple of time ago, had never taken really the time to compile the footage, so here we go. There was already a video showing the Weser one year and a half ago, how to deal with the Bearn. I invite you to take a look at this one because it's absolutely hilarious. I will put it in the video description. And now let's focus specifically on the Weser. And here we have it, the Weser. Survivability pretty average, 27,000 HP, rest of the stats are decent, but your concealment is not. You have to be careful with that thing, not getting surprised, because you're not going to be able to run away very easily. Only 31 top speed, and the rest of the maneuverability stats are average as well. No main guns, but you do get auto secondaries, the same as the Loewenhardt. That's good news. With a reload of 4.5 seconds, so you can actually increase that with your secondaries overload. That's actually pretty good, right? Pretty decent DPM there. Dive bombers, you get 2 squadrons of 3 dive bombers, 15 as a capacity. That's actually pretty good for tier 6. Reload time 10 seconds, pretty good as well, but they are AP bomb, so yeah, no fires for you. Torpedo bombers, well, no floats as well. Really, that thing is not meant to play the damage overtime game. They really have to focus on raw damage, and even though the damage of the torpedo bombers it's the worst at the tier, at only 5,500, compare that with the Seraph 10,000 and the Dependence 9,000, and yeah, not great torpedo bombers. So yeah, when you look at the fighters, well, you get 9 of them. That's excellent news. The prep time 15 seconds is also pretty good, but the rest of the damage stats are not very good. Only 200 attack damage. Yeah, that's on par with the Furious, but unlike the Furious, those are very fast indeed. And that's something that you want to improve with your equipment setup. And finally, the AA. The AA, it's actually pretty decent, but it's a tier 6 CV. You're not going to shoot down too many things with your CV. So, German CVs. Yeah. What can I say? Well, essentially, they're completely different from the Graf Zeppelin. Their survivability, it's really not that good, and the damage outputs of the gun is actually fairly limited. So yeah, but there are a couple of really good things there. For example, the fighters are amazing, not because of their damage output, but because of their speed, so you can very easily bait and take the enemy fighters across the map without any problem. Watch the Bearn guide to see. But the first important thing that has to be said is you really have to focus on the right targets with those ships. And yeah, since you're not going to deal any damage over time, there you go, we just hit the island, subscribe button. Well, you want to focus on maximizing the damage output of those AP bombers, because the torpedoes, they're really garbage as well. And that means that you have to select the targets that will actually have the maximum chance of being citadeled. So typically I see that there is a Warspite there. I'm not going to focus on this one. But a heavy cruiser like the Canarias, it's just an invitation to get the damage. So yeah, you see that the fighter's damage output, it's not really excellent. I'm not really able to stop the enemy planes from bothering me, but I'm actually able to catch them very quickly. So yeah, I guess maybe that compensates a little bit. Unlike the Furious, which also has an abysmal damage output, but also an abysmal speed, you're never going to be able to catch any planes coming to your way. Not the case with the Weser. So, Ashitaka, it's also a very good target for those CVs. So what you want to do at the beginning of the battle is take a look at the enemy composition and decide which ships you are going to focus. And you will see that it's a theme that is actually very consistent across the entire line. The first thing that you have to do when you play those CVs is decide which enemy ships you're going to focus. So they're pretty dependent on that. It's not like, I would say, a regular CV where you could actually be dealing damage to any kind of ship. These ones are a little bit different with respects to that. The other thing that you want to do, again, unlike the Graf Zeppelin, with the Graf Zeppelin you actually are looking for the close range engagements. With this one, not so much. not at least not at the beginning of the game, because even though you do have a pretty decent damage output with those secondaries, the survivability, it's nowhere near the Graf Zeppelin. Yeah, I know it's a tier 6, but it's the same across the line. So what you have to do is you really activate your secondaries overload and you run away for these engagements. Something interesting with the Weser, so you get the same auto secondaries layout as the Loewenhardt. So that means that you're able, yeah, there you go, you saw getting punched there by the Ashitaka. And actually I'm able to fire forwards or backwards, forwards with 4 guns, backwards with 6 while I'm getting away. You do not have to show full broadside to be at least dealing a little bit of damage. Of course, if you want to use the 10 guns, you have to be broadsiding your opponents. But yeah, it's actually a little bit wiser to simply disengage after your secondaries overload have finished and to keep finishing the targets with your planes, because an Ashitaka, that's a perfect target for you. We've seen in this stat sheet that the bomber's HP pool, it's actually very, very limited, so you really want to pick your battles very carefully with those planes. Avoid any concentration of AA. That's really, really the top advice, because you will get deplaned very, very easily. And so in the meantime, we have survived the engagement with the Ashitaka. We're going to turn around, and in the meantime we keep focusing on that poor Canarias, because that's really our second priority target in that battle. When I looked at the enemy team, I was saying, okay, Ashitaka first, Canarias second. And yeah, the other ships, it's not that we cannot really target them, but against the Gneisenau, typically your dive bombers, they will either not be dealing full damage, and the chance of getting a citadel, it's actually close to 0. So yeah, those CVs are not super fast. It's going to take me a little bit of time before I'm able to rejoin the action, but I decide to help my Colorado there fight that Gneisenau. I'm going to leave the Canarias alone for the moment. Yeah, I'm just going to send my dive bombers after it. I hope that I'm able to deal a little bit of damage with the torpedoes, but yeah, not enough. And the Gneisenau gets a pretty lucky salvo there, deleting so much health from a Colorado. Yeah, that's not really good for me. And 300 to 600, 3 ships to 5, I think we can say it's already a loss, right? Yeah, and it happens quite a lot actually with the German CV, simply because you cannot really have the same level of effectiveness across every target. So yeah, there you go, you see that the first squadron there completely missed the Canarias, and against a target like the Gneisenau, I'm typically not going to be super efficient, because yeah, my AP bombers are certainly not going to citadel it, and you know the dive bombers, they're pretty poor, so yeah. But there is another target that you absolutely have to pick if you get the opportunity. That's the enemy CV that was spotted a little bit down below. Yeah, because yeah, that is your absolute priority target. Target number 1, the enemy CV. As soon as you get a shot on the enemy CV, meaning there is no AA to protect it, you have to punch him in the face. You have to send your dive bombers to deal with it, because typically they're going to put almost all their bombs on target, but you will also be getting, that's probably the target that's going to give you the highest amount of citadels. There you go. So yeah, target selection, number 1 thing with these CVs, and yeah, luckily he misses me there, because I would not have had a lot of health, and I'm going to keep pounding the Gneisenau with my torpedo bombers. I'm fairly confident in my ability to be dealing with the independence, even though I'm pretty low on health, simply because I still have my secondaries overload, and my dive bombers, I'm going to completely destroy it with them. So yeah, let's see what happens. You see that health is going to drop very quickly. Boom, that's another citadel there, and I'm going to go broadsiding him, and this is where I can actually activate all my secondaries, and you see that he goes down very quickly. Quick enough to be finishing him before the end of the game? Probably not, but there you go. So there you go, a defeat, but a good illustration on how to play those things, how to use it to its strength, the speed of the fighters, the auto secondaries that let you focus on your planes while they're simply dealing their damage, and also counter its weaknesses like the relatively low play count. So a decent CV overall and a nice entry to the line. Next week we will take a look at the Tier 8 August von Parseval. In the meantime, stay safe, take care. That was DFA signing out, bye bye, and the Bearn with 0 damage. Pretty impressive, we had an AFK, that's why we got trashed.